In the vast star-strewn expanse of the galaxy, where empires rose and fell like fleeting comets, Jack Harlan had always chased the unknown, a rugged explorer from Earth, with sun-kissed skin etched by years of solar flares and zero-gravity drifts. Jack piloted his sleek scout ship through the uncharted fringes of the Orion Arm. His vessel, the stellar Nomad Asterisk, hummed with the quiet efficiency of human ingenuity, a testament to mankind's unyielding drive to push boundaries. Little did he know that, on this routine survey mission, the boundaries of his world were about to shatter in ways that would redefine everything he thought he understood about love, power, and the stars themselves. It started with a distress signal, faint and flickering like a dying ember. Jack's instruments lit up with an anomaly, a massive structure orbiting a rogue planet, its silhouette a labyrinth of crystalline spires piercing the void. "What the hell is that?" he muttered to himself, his voice gravelly from disuse, as he leaned forward in the cockpit. The signal pulsed in an alien tongue, but the universal code for emergency was unmistakable. Against his better judgment, because out here, curiosity often danced hand-in-hand with catastrophe, Jack altered course. As he drew closer, tractor beams snared his ship like invisible tentacles, pulling him inexorably toward the behemoth. Alarms blared. Jack fought the controls, but it was futile. The Nomad Asterisk shuddered as it docked into a yawning hangar bay, bathed in an ethereal blue glow. Hatches hissed open, and before he could grab his plasma rifle, a squad of figures materialized tall, graceful beings with skin like polished alabaster, their hair cascading in silvery white waves that shimmered under the artificial lights. They moved with an otherworldly elegance, clad in flowing garments of iridescent silk that clung to their curves like a lover's whisper, revealing just enough to intrigue without vulgarity. Their ears, delicately pointed like those of ancient elven myths, twitched with alertness. Aliens, real, living aliens, and they weren't hostile, at least, not yet. One stepped forward, her presence commanding the air itself. She was taller than the others, her white hair braided with glowing filaments that pulsed like heartbeats. Her eyes, a piercing violet, locked onto Jack's with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. "Human," she intoned, her voice a melodic cascade that bypassed his translator implant and resonated directly in his mind. "You have entered the sacred domain of Xyphera. I am Matriarch Elara, sovereign of this realm. Your vessel has been impounded for assessment. Come peacefully, or face the void's embrace." Jack raised his hands slowly, his mind racing. Earth had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but this felt like stepping into a fever dream. "Look, Lady Matriarch, I'm just a scout. No harm intended. Let me go, and we'll call it even." Elara's lips curved into a smile that was equal parts amusement and hunger. "Harm? Oh, primitive one, you have no idea the gift you've brought to our doorstep." She gestured, and her guards, beautiful, ethereal women all, escorted him through corridors that twisted like living veins, walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins. Jack's boots echoed on floors that felt like warm glass, and the air carried a scent of exotic blooms, intoxicating and disorienting. They led him to the heart of the station, the throne nexus, a vast chamber where a throne of star-forged crystal loomed like a frozen supernova. Elara ascended its steps, her gown whispering against the stone, and settled with the poise of a queen who had ruled for eons. Flanking her were three figures who stole Jack's breath away, her daughters, the princesses of Xyphera. Lyra, the eldest, with hair like spun moonlight falling to her waist, her figure a symphony of graceful curves accentuated by a diaphanous robe that hinted at the strength beneath. Zara, the middle one, bolder in her stance, her white locks cropped shorter and tousled. Her attire a sleek bodysuit of shimmering fabric that hugged her lithe form like a second skin. And Nara, the youngest, with wide, curious violet eyes and a tentative smile. Her gown a cascade of silken layers that fluttered as she shifted, revealing the subtle allure of her slender yet voluptuous silhouette. All three shared the same porcelain skin, those enchanting pointed ears, and an aura of fragile beauty that masked something deeper, a vulnerability Jack couldn't yet place. They regarded him not with fear, but with a mix of fascination and desperation, their gazes lingering on his broad shoulders, his weathered features, the raw vitality that screamed human asterisk. "Scan him," Elara commanded, and a holographic orb descended, bathing Jack in a web of light. He tensed as it probed, invisible tendrils delving into his very essence, his DNA, his memories, his very soul. Flashes of his life played out, childhood on a dusty Martian colony, First love lost to a shuttle accident, the endless nights staring at stars that now felt mocking. The orb hummed, then withdrew. Elara's eyes widened, a spark of triumph igniting within them. By the eternal stars, he is the one. Her voice trembled with reverence, echoing through the chamber. The princesses leaned forward, whispers rippling among the guards. Jack blinked, his heart pounding. The one? For what? Look, if this is about ransom or tech, Earth's not exactly rolling in credits. Silence, Earthborn, Elara interrupted, rising from her throne. She descended the steps with predatory grace, circling him like a sculptor appraising marble. Her hand, cool, silken, brushed his jaw, sending an electric shiver down his spine. Our empire teeters on the abyss. Millennia of isolation, of selective breeding among our kind, have diluted our life force, our genes weaken, our young wither before they draw breath. We are a matriarchy of queens and warriors, yet without vigor, we fade into the cosmic dust. She paused, her violet eyes boring into his. But your DNA sings with the fury of a supernova. Robust, adaptive, teeming with the primal fire of your Deathworld origins. Earth, that savage cradle of predators and survivors, it has forged in you what we lack. You are the chosen, Jack Harlan, the human destined to breathe life back into Xyphera. The words hung in the air, heavy as a black hole. Jack's mind reeled. Breathe life, you mean? No, wait, what the hell are you talking about? Elara's smile deepened, a blend of maternal warmth and imperial command. You will unite with my daughters. Lyra, Zara, Nara, the jewels of our lineage. Through you, they will bear heirs of unmatched strength. Heirs who will reclaim our glory, conquer the stars that mock our decline, refuse, and your ship becomes your tomb. Accept, and you become a legend, a savior, a lover, the spark that ignites an empire. Jack's gaze flicked to the princesses. Lyra met his eyes steadily, a flush coloring her cheeks, her pointed ears twitching with unspoken longing. Zara smirked, her bold spirit shining through, as if challenging him to rise to the occasion. Nara bit her lip, her innocence laced with curiosity, her body language a silent plea. They were breathtaking. These alien beauties, their forms a perfect harmony of elegance and sensuality. Dressed in ways that celebrated their heritage, robes and suits that flowed and clung, evoking ancient myths of goddesses descended to mortal realms. He should have been repulsed, outraged. This was madness, a violation of every Earth ethic he knew. But something stirred in him, a primal pull. The HFY spirit that had driven humanity from caves to cosmos. These women, these queens-to-be, needed him, not as a conqueror, but as a catalyst. And damn if the thought didn't ignite a fire in his veins. As the chamber's lights dimmed to an intimate glow, Elara waved a hand, and the guards melted away. The choice is yours, chosen, but know this, in your veins flows the essence of gods. Embrace it, and the galaxy will bow. Jack swallowed hard, the weight of destiny crashing over him like a solar storm. Little did he know, this was only the beginning, the spark that would forge alliances of flesh and fire, where human passion met alien legacy in a dance as old as the stars. The Matriarch's chambers adjoined the throne room, a sanctum of opulent silks and hovering crystal orbs that cast rainbows across the walls. Elara led him there personally, her daughters trailing like shadows of moonlight. The air grew thicker, scented with a heady nectar that made Jack's head swim, loosening the knots of resistance in his chest. Rest now, Elara murmured, her touch lingering on his arm. Tomorrow, you meet your fates more intimately. As the door sealed behind her, Jack found himself alone with the princesses. Lyra approached first, her white hair catching the light like a halo. We are not monsters, human, she said softly, her voice a silken thread. We are prisoners of our blood, but you could free us. Zara circled him, her eyes gleaming with mischief, or break us. Either way, it's thrilling, isn't it? A Deathworlder in our midst. Nara hung back, twisting her fingers in her gown, but her gaze was hungry, devouring him with innocent fire. Jack's laugh was bitter, echoing in the vast space. Thrilling? Lady, back home, this would get you slapped with a dozen lawsuits. But here, hell, maybe it's the air. Or maybe it's you 3 walking temptations. Fine, show me what I'm signing up for. The night unfolded in whispers and revelations. Lyra spoke of Xyphera's history, grand fleets that once dominated sectors, now rusting in dry docks because no warrior could be born strong enough to crew them. Zara demonstrated their tech, holographic simulations of battles where their forces crumbled under lesser foes. Nara, shy at first, shared dreams of a future where she could fly among the stars without fear of frailty. As hours bled into dawn, or whatever passed for it in this orbital palace, Jack felt the walls of his skepticism crumble. These weren't just aliens, they were women, vibrant and vulnerable. their pointed ears framing faces that could launch 1,000 ships. Their attire, so elegantly provocative, spoke of a culture that revered the body as much as the mind. And in their eyes, he saw not obligation, but desire, a yearning for the raw, unfiltered humanity he embodied. By the time Elara returned, Jack's resolve had shifted. "I'll do it," he declared, standing tall. "But on my terms, no cages, no chains, and if we're breeding an empire, we're doing it right with training, with fire. Your daughters won't just carry my kids, they'll wield the strength to protect them." Elara's laughter rang like chimes. Bold words, chosen very well. The rites begin at zenith. What Jack didn't anticipate was the depth of the connection forming. As Lyra's hand brushed his in farewell, a spark jumped, literal, electric, their biologies interfacing in ways tech couldn't explain. Zara's playful shove lingered as a caress, and Nara's tentative smile promised worlds unexplored. The zenith came swiftly. In a ritual chamber bathed in starlight projections, the matriarch invoked ancient oaths. Jack stood at the center, stripped to the waist, his human form a stark contrast to the ethereal grace around him, muscles honed by gravity wells and asteroid halls, scars telling tales of survival. The princesses encircled him, their gowns shedding layers like petals in a breeze, revealing skin that glowed with inner light. But this was no crude ceremony. Elara's voice wove spells of consent and power. "Jack Harlan, seed of earth, you enter this union as equal. Give of your essence, and receive theirs in return." The first touch was Lyra's, her fingers tracing his chest, cool yet warming, igniting nerves he didn't know existed. Zara joined, her boldness pressing close, whispers of challenge in his ear. Nara hesitated, then stepped in, her innocence blooming into boldness. As their energies mingled, Jack felt the HFY surge, the indomitable human spirit rising to meet the call. This wasn't just survival, it was creation, passion forged in the crucible of stars. Yet, as the rite peaked, alarms shattered the serenity, red lights flashed. "Intruders!" a guard cried. "The Vorath fleet, they've breached our shields." Elara's face hardened. "The enemy's at our gates. Chosen, your trial begins now." Jack grinned, adrenaline flooding his veins. "Bring it on. Time to show these princesses what a human can do." The chamber erupted into chaos as Vorath boarding pods slammed into the hull. Jack grabbed a nearby energy lance, Xyphera's elegant weapon, humming with plasma and charged toward the fray, the princesses at his heels. Lyra's eyes widened in awe as he dispatched the first scaly intruder with a fluid strike, his movements a blur of earthborn ferocity. "By the stars," she breathed, "you fight like a storm." Zara laughed, grabbing her own weapon. "Teach me that." Nara clutched hers tightly, determination etching her features. The battle spilled into the corridors, Jack leading the charge. The Vorath were brutish, all claws and armored hides. But Jack's tactics, guerrilla feints learned from human wars, turned the tide. He dodged a swipe, countered with a precise thrust, then yelled, "Flank them, use the vents." The princesses, inspired, adapted. Lyra's grace made her strikes poetic, Zara's aggression overwhelming. Nara, finding her courage, landed a killing blow that drew cheers. As they repelled the wave, panting and exhilarated, Jack turned to them. "That's just the start. If we're building something here, we build warriors first." Elara watched from afar, her expression a mix of pride and calculation. The Chosen had proven more than a breeder, he was a catalyst for revolution. But deeper bonds were forming. In the aftermath, as they tended wounds in a quiet alcove, Lyra's hand found his again. "You saved us," she whispered, her body pressing close in gratitude, the air thick with unspoken promises. Zara smirked. "And you're not half bad to look at." Deathwilder, Nara blushed, but her eyes sparkled. "More, Jack, teach us more." He nodded, the weight of their world and his settling comfortably. The galaxy had chosen him, but now he chose them back. Days blurred into a rhythm of training and intimacy. Jack turned the palace gyms into boot camps, teaching hand-to-hand from ancient martial arts, marksmanship with improvised flair. The princesses blossomed under his guidance, their frail forms gaining steel. Lyra mastered the feint, her white hair whipping like a banner in mock combat. Zara reveled in the brawls, her laughter echoing as she pinned him once, briefly, before he flipped her with a grin. Nara, the quiet one, surprised them all with her precision, her pointed ears perking up at each victory. Evenings brought quieter moments, shared meals of glowing fruits that tasted like ambrosia, stories exchanged under simulated skies. Jack spoke of Earth's oceans, its fierce storms. They shared legends of Xyphera's lost golden age. Touches lingered, a hand on a shoulder, a brush of hair building tension like a gathering nebula. One night, as they sparred under low lights, Zara tripped him deliberately, landing atop him with a wicked smile. "Yield, human!" "Never," he growled, pulling her closer. The kiss was inevitable, an explosion of stars, her lips soft, tasting of sweet ether, her body molding to his with perfect fit. Lyra and Nara watched, then joined, the four of them entwining in a dance of discovery. Clothes whispered away, revealing the exquisite forms beneath, curves that begged exploration, skin that hummed with alien energy. Jack's hands roamed, gentle yet commanding, eliciting gasps and sighs, their pointed ears sensitive to breathe, their responses a symphony of newfound passion. It was tender, fierce, a union that transcended species. Lyra's elegance gave way to abandon. Zara's fire matched his, Nara's innocence ignited into flame. As they moved together, waves of pleasure crashing, Jack felt the genetic miracle unfold, life sparking in ways scanners would later confirm, but ecstasy shattered with a new alarm. Matriarch, the Vorath return in force. Elara burst in, her face grim. "They've allied with the Shadow clans, our fleet is outnumbered." Jack rose, pulling on his gear. "Then we fight smarter, princesses, with me." The battle that followed was legend in the making. Jack orchestrated from the bridge, his human strategies baffling the enemy. Decoy drones, asteroid ambushes, boarding parties led by the newly empowered royals. Lyra commanded a wing, her voice steady over comms. "For Xyphera and for him." Zara led the assault, her lance flashing. Nara sniped from afar, each shot a testament to Jack's training. As explosions lit the void, Jack piloted a fighter himself, weaving through laser fire. A Vorath cruiser loomed. He dove into its vents, planting charges with suicidal precision. The boom rocked the stars. Back aboard, cheers erupted. But in the quiet after, Elara pulled Jack aside. "You've given us more than heirs, you've given us hope." Yet, as he embraced his princesses, a shadow loomed, whispers among the guards, betrayal from within. The twist came at dawn. One of Elara's advisors, jealous of the humans' rise, had sabotaged the core. The station shuddered, life support failing. Jack sprang into action, racing to engineering with the princesses. "Hold on," he shouted, rerouting power with jury-rigged human tech, a fusion of Xyphera crystals and Earth circuits. Lyra's hands steadied his. "We trust you." The fix held, but the traitor fled to Vorath lines. "This isn't over," Jack vowed. In the days that followed, drama escalated. Awkward alliances formed, former rivals now seeking the humans' favor. Zara's jealousy flared during a diplomatic feast, when a visiting envoy flirted with Jack. "Mine," she hissed, pulling him into a side chamber for a possessive reclaiming, her body demanding affirmation. Humor lightened the tension. Nara's first attempt at human slang led to a sparring mishap, tumbling them all into a pile of laughter. "Fuck yeah," she echoed Jack's battle cry, mangling it adorably. But threats mounted. Vorath spies infiltrated, leading to chases through jeweled halls. Jack's quick thinking saved Nara from an assassin, his body shielding hers in a moment of raw vulnerability. As bonds deepened, so did the intimacy. Nights of exploration, where alien physiologies revealed delights undreamed, tendrils of energy enhancing touches, shared visions in climax that bonded minds as well as bodies. The climax built to a galactic summit. Elara hosted peace talks, but it was a trap. Vorath fleets encircled. Jack, now general in all but name, unveiled his masterstroke, hybrid warriors from early conceptions, born accelerated by Xyphera tech, already fierce. The battle was epic, fleets clashing in nebulae fire, Jack's ship darting like a hornet, princesses piloted squadrons, their voices a chorus of defiance. In the heart of the fray, Jack boarded the Vorath flagship, fighting through hordes. Lyra, Zara, Nara joined, a quartet of fury. Blows landed in brutal detail, Jack's fist cracking exoskeletons, Lyra's lance piercing armor, Zara's kicks shattering shields, Nara's shots finding eyes. The Vorath lord fell to Jack's blade, a roar of triumph echoing. Peace dawned. Xyphera rose anew, heirs multiplying, strong, beautiful blends of worlds. Jack, embraced by his loves and their mother, gazed at the stars. "Humanity, fuck yeah," he whispered. Elara smiled. "Indeed, chosen our eternal guardian." And so, in the embrace of alien queens, the human found his throne, not of crystal, but of hearts conquered. But even as the echoes of that triumphant roar faded into the hum of the station's recovering systems, Jack couldn't shake the undercurrent of unease rippling through the air like a distant thunder. The Vorath Lord's defeat had bought them time, a fragile piece etched in the debris of shattered hulls drifting outside the viewports. But Elara's advisors whispered in shadowed alcoves, their pointed ears twitching with secrets yet untold. Jack pulled Lyra closer in the dim glow of the recovery bay, her white hair spilling over his chest like cool silk. Her body still trembling from the adrenaline of the fight, and from the deeper fires they'd kindled together just hours before. Zara lounged against a console nearby, her sleek bodysuit torn in places that revealed tantalizing glimpses of her alabaster skin, a smirk playing on her lips as she watched them. Nara, ever the quiet flame, sat cross-legged on the floor, her gown disheveled, tracing patterns on Jack's boot with a finger that lingered just a touch too long. "You think it's over?" Zara asked, her voice a husky purr that cut through the quiet, her violet eyes locking onto Jack's with that bold challenge he was starting to crave. She stretched languidly, the fabric of her suit pulling taut across her curves, accentuating the graceful swell of her hips and the subtle arch of her back. It was deliberate, that pose a reminder of the passions they'd shared, the way her body had moved against his in the ritual chamber, fierce and unyielding, her pointed ears flushing with heat as she'd whispered his name like a forbidden incantation. Jack chuckled low, his hand sliding up Lyra's thigh, feeling the warmth of her skin through the thin layers of her robe. "Over? In this galaxy? Nah, but for tonight, let's pretend." His words were rough, edged with the exhaustion of battle, but there was a spark in them, that unquenchable human fire that had drawn these alien beauties to him like moths to a flame. Lyra sighed against his neck, her breath a soft caress that sent shivers racing down his spine, her fingers intertwining with his as if anchoring herself to this rugged earthman who had appended their world. The bay's lights dimmed further, programmed for rest cycles, casting long shadows that danced across their forms. Elara had retired to her private sanctum, leaving strict orders for the guards to stand down, no interruptions. She'd said with a knowing glance at Jack, her own violet eyes gleaming with approval. The matriarch understood the needs of her empire now more than ever. The unions must deepen. The bonds must solidify if their heirs were to thrive. And so, in this stolen pocket of serenity, the four of them lingered, the air thick with the scent of sweat and exotic blooms from the station's hydro gardens, a heady mix that stirred memories of the rite's intoxicating heights. Nara shifted closer, her wide eyes flickering with a mix of shyness and hunger, her slender fingers brushing Jack's arm. "Tell us more about your Earth," she murmured, her voice soft as starlight, but laced with an undercurrent of desire that made her pointed ears quiver. She leaned in, her gown slipping slightly off one shoulder, revealing the smooth curve of her collarbone and the gentle rise of her breast, pale and inviting in the low light. Jack's gaze followed the motion involuntarily, his pulse quickening at the vulnerability she offered so freely now, a far cry from the tentative princess he'd first met. "Earth's a wild place," he replied, his free hand reaching out to tuck a strand of her white hair behind her ear, his thumb grazing the sensitive tip. She gasped softly, a sound that was equal parts surprise and delight, her body arching instinctively toward him. Storms that could swallow ships whole, mountains that touched the sky, but nothing as breathtaking as you three. His words were sincere, laced with that raw honesty that humans wielded like a weapon, disarming even the most guarded hearts. Zara laughed, a throaty sound that echoed off the metal walls, sliding over to join them on the low bench. She pressed against Jack's other side, her leg draping casually over his, the heat of her thigh seeping through his trousers. "Flattery from a Deathworlder? Careful, or we'll make you prove it." Her hand trailed down his chest, fingers dancing over the scars from old missions, each touch a spark that ignited the embers of their earlier passion. Jack felt the tension coiling in him, that familiar pull, the erotic charge of their differences, human endurance meeting Xyphera's ethereal responsiveness. Their skin hummed with bioelectricity, a subtle current that made every caress feel amplified, like fingertips tracing lightning paths. Lyra lifted her head, her lips brushing his jaw in a featherlight kiss that promised more. "He already has," she whispered, her voice husky with recollection, her hand joining Zara's on his abdomen, their touches overlapping in a symphony of exploration. The memory flooded back unbidden, the ritual chamber, where the alarms had interrupted just as their bodies had begun to entwine fully. They'd barely scratched the surface then, the threat forcing them apart, but now, with victory's glow still fresh, the air crackled with unfinished business. Jack's breath hitched as their fingers ventured lower, teasing the edge of his belt, the suspense building like a storm on the horizon. Would they dare indulge here? in the open bay, with the galaxy's dangers lurking just beyond the hull. Yet even as desire swelled, a shadow of suspense crept in. Jack's explorer instincts, honed by years of navigating asteroid fields and pirate ambushes, picked up on the subtle shifts, the way the station's hum faltered for a split second, the distant clank of something metallic echoing through the vents. He tensed, but masked it with a grin, pulling Nara onto his lap in one fluid motion. She settled against him with a soft moan, her voluptuous form molding perfectly to his, her pointed ears brushing his cheek as she nuzzled closer. "Jack," she breathed, her hands roaming his shoulders, nails lightly scraping in a way that sent jolts straight to his core. "Don't stop," Zara urged, her mouth finding the crook of his neck, teeth grazing skin in a playful nip that bordered on erotic torment. Her body undulated against his side, the sleek suit doing little to hide the press of her breasts or the curve of her hips grinding subtly, building friction that made his head spin. Lyra captured his lips then, her kiss deep and demanding, tongues dancing in a rhythm that echoed the pulse of the stars outside. It was a tangle of limbs and whispers, their white hair cascading over him like a veil, their scents mingling, sweet nectar and wild ozone, intoxicating and alien. But the suspense gnawed at him. As Nara's hands slipped under his shirt, exploring the hard planes of his chest with wide-eyed wonder, Jack's mind raced. The Vorath retreat had been too clean, too sudden. Spies, saboteurs. He broke the kiss with Lyra, his voice rough. "Wait, something's off, you hear that?" The princesses paused, their touches lingering but alert now, ears perking up like radar dishes. Zara's eyes narrowed, her body still pressed close, one hand possessively on his thigh. "The vents, it's probably just maintenance drones." But doubt flickered in her violet gaze, and she didn't pull away instead. She leaned in closer, as if the thrill of potential danger heightened the erotic tension between them. Nara whimpered softly, her fingers tracing lower, brushing the growing evidence of his arousal. "Don't stop now," she pleaded, her innocence cracking into bold need, her hips shifting against him in a slow, teasing grind that made him groan. The sensation was electric, her skin's subtle glow pulsing in time with her heartbeat, syncing with his own in a way that felt profoundly intimate, almost telepathic. Jack's hands gripped her waist, guiding her movements, the fabric of her gown bunching up to reveal thighs that were silken and strong, begging for more. Lyra's hand joined Nara's, their fingers working in tandem to undo his belt with deliberate slowness, each click of the buckle amplifying the suspense. "Let us show you our gratitude properly," Lyra murmured against his ear, her breath hot, her pointed ear twitching as his lips brushed it. The sensitivity there was exquisite. She arched with a gasp, her body shuddering as waves of pleasure rippled through her. Zara chuckled darkly, her own explorations bolder, slipping inside his open shirt to tease a nipple with expert flicks of her tongue. "Humans are so responsive," she teased, her voice a sultry whisper that vibrated against his skin. The air grew heavier, charged with erotic promise and the undercurrent of peril. Jack surrendered to it, his body responding with primal urgency, thrusting gently against Nara's warmth, his mouth claiming Lyra's again in a kiss that devoured. Zara's hands were everywhere, unzipping her own suit just enough to free her breasts, pressing them against his arm in a soft, insistent demand. Their forms were a vision of alien allure, porcelain skin glowing faintly, curves that invited worship, pointed ears framing faces flushed with desire. He explored them in turn, cupping Zara's fullness, eliciting a moan that echoed like music, tracing Lyra's spine down to the dimples at her lower back, delving between Nara's thighs through the thin barrier of her gown, feeling her wetness, her readiness. Yet, as ecstasy built, the clank returned louder, closer. A panel in the wall hissed open unexpectedly, and a shadow detached from the darkness, not a drone, but a figure cloaked in stealth weave, eyes gleaming with malice. A Vorath infiltrator slipped through during the chaos. Jack's instincts kicked in. He shoved the princesses behind him, grabbing a nearby tool, a plasma welder, and swinging it like a club. The alien lunged, claws extended, but Jack was faster, his human reflexes a blur honed by Deathworld survival. The fight was brutal, intimate in its savagery, the infiltrator's talons raking air inches from Zara's face. Jack countering with a headbutt that cracked exoskeleton. Lyra snatched a shard of debris, stabbing at the creature's flank. Nara screamed but hurled a console panel, distracting it long enough for Jack to drive the welder's hot end into its throat. Sparks flew, the body slumped, but not before it triggered a silent alarm, reinforcements inbound. Panting, bloodied but unbroken, Jack turned to the princesses. Their eyes were wide, not with fear, but with a fierce admiration that bordered on worship. You're incredible. Nara breathed, rushing to him, her hands checking for wounds even as she pressed her body flush against his, the adrenaline fueling a renewed hunger. Zara licked her lips, wiping a streak of alien ichor from her cheek. That was hot, but we're not done yet. She pulled him down onto the bench, the erotic tension snapping back like a live wire, undeterred by the danger. Lyra joined, her touches urgent now, stripping away the remnants of clothing with trembling hands. Claim us fully, Jack, before they come. The suspense hung thick, footsteps echoing in the distance, the thrill of pursuit adding an edge to their passion. Jack obliged, his body covering Nara's first, entering her with a slow, deliberate thrust that drew a cry of ecstasy from her lips. She was tight, welcoming, her inner walls pulsing with that alien energy, milking him in waves that built to shattering peaks. Her pointed ears quivered violently, her nails digging into his back as she climaxed, her glow brightening the bay like a private aurora. Zara watched, her hand between her own thighs, then pushed him onto his back, straddling him with bold intent. My turn, Deathworlder. She sank down, enveloping him in heat that was velvet fire, her hips rolling in a rhythm that was both dance and demand. Jack gripped her waist, thrusting up to meet her, their bodies slapping together in a primal cadence, her breasts bouncing with each motion, nipples hard peaks he captured in his mouth. She rode him hard, her white hair flying, moans escalating to screams that drowned out the approaching alarms. Lyra positioned herself above his face, lowering slowly, her scent musky and divine. Jack's tongue delved eagerly, lapping at her folds, tasting the sweet essence of Xyphera royalty. She ground against him, her hands in his hair, pulling as pleasure overtook her, graceful undulations turning frantic, her climax flooding him with warmth. They switched, a whirlwind of positions, Jack taking Lyra from behind as she bent over the console, her robe hiked up, ass presented like an offering. Zara and Nara entwining with him in a tangle of limbs, mouths and hands everywhere. The eroticism was overwhelming, their biology sinking, shared orgasms rippling through all four like a chain reaction, energies merging in bursts of light and ecstasy. Jack held back as long as he could, the human stamina shining through, drawing out their pleasures until they begged, shattered and reformed in his arms. But as the final waves crested, the doors burst open, more infiltrators pouring in, lasers firing wildly. Jack roared, pulling free and grabbing his improvised weapon, the princesses scrambling for cover but already reaching for their own lances, naked and fierce, bodies glistening with sweat and satisfaction. The night of passion had forged them closer, but the galaxy demanded more. As blaster fire lit the bay, Jack charged into the fray, his lovers at his side, warriors born of love and fire, ready to defend what they'd claimed. Blaster fire scorched the air, painting the recovery bay in staccato bursts of crimson and azure, each bolt a deadly whisper promising oblivion. Jack dove behind an overturned console, the heat singeing the edges of his shirt as he yanked Zara down with him, her body slamming against his in a tangle of limbs and urgency. "Stay low," he barked, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife, heart pounding not just from the adrenaline but from the raw, lingering ache of their interrupted ecstasy, the way Nara's warmth had clung to him moments ago, now replaced by the cold grip of survival. Lyra rolled to cover on the opposite side, her white hair matted with sweat, snatching up a discarded energy lance with a grace that belied the terror flashing in her violet eyes. Nara, scrambling beside her, clutched a makeshift shield from a bulkhead panel, her gown torn and clinging to her curves like a second skin, revealing flashes of porcelain flesh that stirred something fierce and protective in Jack's gut. The infiltrators, 5 of them now, hulking Vorath remnants with scales glistening like oil under the emergency strobes, advanced with guttural snarls, their claws scraping sparks from the deck plating. One fired wildly, the bolt grazing Jack's shoulder, searing fabric and flesh in a white-hot line that made him grit his teeth against the pain. Bastards came prepared, he growled, peeking over the edge and returning fire with the plasma welder, its improvised beam lancing out to vaporize a chunk of the lead attacker's arm. The creature howled, a sound like grinding gears, and charged, leaping over debris with unnatural speed. Jack met it head-on, tackling the beast midair, their bodies crashing to the floor in a whirlwind of fists and talons. He felt the claws rake his side, drawing blood that welled hot and sticky, but he drove his knee into its underbelly, exploiting the weak spot he'd spotted in the earlier fight, the soft juncture where armor met flesh. Zara was a blur beside him, her lance humming to life as she thrust it through another infiltrator's thigh, the alien crumpling with a screech. "For Jack, for us!" she cried, her voice a thrilling mix of fury and exhilaration. Her pointed ears flattened against her skull in battle rage. But even in the midst of the melee, there was that erotic undercurrent, the way her torn suit rode up her thigh as she pivoted, exposing the curve of her hip, a distracting allure that Jack shoved aside with sheer willpower. Lyra flanked the third, her movements poetic yet lethal, the lance whipping in arcs that severed limbs and cauterized wounds in bursts of steam. "We won't fall, not now," she shouted, her eyes locking with Jack's across the fray, a spark of something deeper passing between them, promise forged in blood and desire. Nara, the surprise among them, proved her mettle in a way that twisted Jack's heart with pride and shock. As the fourth infiltrator lunged at her, claws extended for killing blow, she didn't flinch. Instead, she hurled the shield with pinpoint accuracy, the edge embedding in the creature's eye socket. It staggered, and she followed with a savage kick to its knee, learned from Jack's grueling sessions, the impact cracking chitin like eggshell. I did it," she gasped, her voice trembling but triumphant, her body quivering with the rush, breasts heaving beneath the ragged gown as she turned to Jack, eyes wide with a mix of fear and fierce joy. The sight of her innocent no more, transformed into a warrior queen, sent a surge of thrilling protectiveness through him, mingled with the curious wonder of how far she'd come in so short a time. The fifth Vorath, smarter or perhaps more desperate, activated a grenade-like device from its belt, the orb pulsing with unstable energy that hummed ominously, threatening to rupture the bay's integrity and suck them all into the void. Jack's eyes widened in dramatic realization, the climax of this skirmish barreling toward catastrophe. "Down," he roared, shoving Zara and the others flat as he lunged for the orb, his hand closing around it just as the timer hit critical. Time slowed, the world narrowing to the heat in his palm. The faces of his lovers etched in stark relief, Lyra's graceful poise cracking into horror, Zara's bold smirk fading to vulnerability, Nara's newfound courage flickering with doubt, with a superhuman twist fueled by that indomitable HFY essence. The raw grit of a man who'd stared down black holes and lived. He hurled the device back at the alien, watching in thrilling slow motion as it sailed true, embedding in the creature's chest before detonating in a contained bloom of plasma. The explosion rocked the bay, shockwaves rattling consoles and hurling debris like shrapnel confetti. Jack shielded Nara with his body, the blast's edge clipping his back, but the bulkhead held, barely. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of venting gases and their ragged breaths. The infiltrators lay in smoking heaps, defeated not just by weapons, but by the unbreakable bond that had turned these women from fragile princesses into a force of nature. Jack pushed up slowly, pain lancing through him like fire, but he ignored it, pulling Nara into a fierce embrace. "You were amazing," he murmured against her hair, inhaling the scent of her sweat, fear, and that underlying nectar that drove him wild. She clung to him, her body molding to his, the thrill of survival igniting a spark that promised more intimate celebrations once the dust settled. But the victory was short-lived, curiosity piqued by an unexpected revelation amid the carnage. As Zara knelt to rifle through the lead infiltrator's pouches, her fingers deft and unyielding. Suit still half undone from their earlier passions, she unearthed a data crystal, its surface etched with Xyphera glyphs that glowed faintly. "What's this?" she wondered aloud, her voice laced with suspicion, holding it up to the light. Jack snatched it, interfacing it with a nearby terminal despite the sparks flying from damaged circuits. The hologram flickered to life, projecting a startling image, not Vorath command logs, but a map of the station's inner sanctums. Overlaid with betrayal markers, targets on Elara's chambers, the air incubation vaults, and worst of all, a hidden chamber deep in the core. Labeled in encrypted code that Jack's translator struggled to parse. "Traitors within," Lyra breathed, her hand flying to her mouth, eyes darting to the shadows as if expecting ghosts to materialize. The projection shifted, revealing a surprising face, one of Elara's most trusted advisors. Vexa, a sleek, white-haired beauty with pointed ears and a reputation for unyielding loyalty, conspiring in holographic whispers with Vorath overlords. "The human seed will taint our purity," Vexa's image sneered, her voluptuous form clad in the same iridescent robes as the princesses, but twisted now with venom. "We strike at the heart, eliminate the matriarch and her whelps before the hybrids dilute our bloodline forever." The drama unfolded in chilling detail, timelines, access codes, even a promise of Vorath thrones in exchange for the Empire's fall. Jack's blood ran cold, the thrill turning to a knot of dread in his stomach. This wasn't just an external threat. It was wrought from the inside, a surprising betrayal that shattered the fragile trust they'd built. "Elara's in danger," he said, voice low and urgent, the pain in his wounds forgotten as he grabbed his gear. "We have to warn her now." The princesses exchanged glances, their faces a mosaic of shock and resolve, Zara's fists clenching with rage, Lyra's poise hardening into steel, Nara's eyes welling but her chin lifting defiantly. They'd shared bodies and secrets with him, and now, this revelation bound them in a web of thrilling uncertainty. Who else could be turned? What other surprises lurked in the crystalline halls? They moved as one, a dramatic quartet slipping through service corridors slick with coolant leaks. The station's alarms now a distant wail overridden by Jack's quick hack on a junction box. Blaster in hand, procured from a fallen foe, Jack led, his steps silent but purposeful, every shadow a potential ambush. The air grew thicker, laced with the ozone tang of failing shields, and the distant rumble of more Vorath ships probing the outer defenses added a layer of thrilling tension, like a noose tightening around their necks. "How could Vexa do this?" Nara whispered, her hand in Jack's, fingers interlaced with a desperation that spoke volumes, her body brushing his in the narrow passage, a reminder of their vulnerability and strength intertwined. "Power," Lyra replied grimly, her lance at the ready, the elegant weapon humming softly. "Our society's always been about bloodlines. The human element, it scares them, scares her." Zara snorted, but there was no humor in it, her eyes scanning ahead with predatory focus. "Let her come, I'll gut her myself." The climax built as they neared Elara's sanctum, the corridors widening into opulent galleries lined with glowing tapestries that depicted Xyphera's storied past, Queen's conquering stars, now mocking their present peril. A patrol of guards loyal, or so they seemed, rounded a corner, and Jack signaled a halt, hearts hammering. But the surprise came swift. The guards raised weapons not at them, but hesitated, eyes flickering with confusion. "Princesses, the human, the Matriarch summons." Before Jack could respond, blaster fire erupted from side vents Vexa's ambush, perfectly timed. Bolts sizzled past, one clipping Lyra's arm, drawing a cry that tore at Jack's soul. He fired back, dropping one assailant in a spray of ichor, then tackled another, the fight devolving into a thrilling melee of grapples and strikes. Zara danced through the chaos, her lance a whirlwind, skewering a traitor mid-lunge. "You dare betray us?" she snarled, her voice dramatic thunder, face twisted in betrayal's fury. Nara, pressed against the wall, fired her scavenged pistol with surprising accuracy, her shots felling a guard who turned on them, the recoil jolting her slender frame but not her resolve. Jack broke free from his grapple, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead, vision blurring but sharpening with rage. He charged Vexa herself as she emerged from the shadows tall, seductive in her flowing gown that hugged her ample curves, white hair unbound like a siren's call, pointed ears adorned with jeweled cuffs. "You!" he growled, slamming her against a pillar, the crystal cracking under the impact. Her violet eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in defiance, her hand clawing for a hidden dagger. "Filthy earthling, you corrupt everything you touch." The struggle was intimate, brutal, her nails raking his cheek, his forearm pinning her wrist, their faces inches apart, breaths mingling in heated animosity. But Jack saw the curiosity in her gaze, the flicker of doubt beneath the hate, a surprising vulnerability that humanized her treachery. "Why?" he demanded, voice rough with exertion. "Elara trusted you. We could have all risen together." Vexa's laugh was bitter, dramatic, as she twisted free momentarily, kicking at his knee. "Rise, as your broodmare? No, the Vorath offer purity strength without your savage taint." But her words faltered as Zara arrived, lance poised at her throat, Lyra and Nara flanking, their wounds bandaged hastily but their stances unyielding. The standoff hung electric, the distant battle outside escalating, explosions rattling the station, Elara's voice booming over comms. "To arms! The core is breached." In a surprising twist, Vexa dropped her dagger, eyes darting to the princesses. "Wait! The core, that's not the plan. The Vorath, they promised no full assault." Her voice cracked, curiosity turning to horror as realization dawned, betrayed by her own allies. Jack saw the opening, the dramatic pivot. "Join us or die with them," he said, releasing her slightly, the thrill of the gamble hanging in the air. She hesitated, pointed ears twitching, then nodded sharply. "Codes, I have them, but we move now or all is lost." United in unlikely alliance, they burst into Elara's chambers, the matriarch already rallying holographic defenses, her gown singed but her presence regal. "Daughters, chosen," she exclaimed, surprise etching her features as Vexa knelt in contrition. But there was no time for explanations. The core's breach meant hull ruptures, life support failing, and Vorath boarding parties flooding the lower decks. The true climax erupted. Jack coordinated the counterattack. His human tactics, feints, choke points, improvised explosives from engineering scraps turning the tide in thrilling waves. Vexa redeemed herself, hacking Vorath overrides, her fingers flying over consoles while stealing glances at Jack, a curious mix of resentment and intrigue in her eyes. Lyra led a squad through the vents, her voice steady over comms. Pushing forward, Jack, cover the flank. Zara barreled into a knot of enemies, laughter wild and dramatic as she felled them, her body a symphony of motion. Nara, surprising all, jury-rigged a shield generator, her technical savvy blooming under pressure, saving a dozen guards from a plasma barrage. In the core chamber, a vast, throbbing heart of crystal and plasma conduits, the final confrontation awaited. The Vorath commander, a behemoth twice Jack's size, roared challenge, tentacles whipping. The human dies, the empire crumbles. Jack faced it, lance in one hand, pistol in the other, the princesses and Vexa at his back. The battle was a maelstrom, tentacles lashing, Jack dodging with acrobatic grace, firing into joints. Lyra's precise strikes severing appendages, Zara's berserk charges, Nara's tech disruptions shorting the beast's armor, Vexa's energy blasts from a stolen rifle. The commander lunged, pinning Jack against a conduit, its maw gaping. Pain exploded as teeth grazed his shoulder, but in a surprising surge, Jack headbutted the creature, stunning it long enough to jam his pistol into its eye and fire point blank. The boom echoed, the body convulsing and collapsing, the core stabilizing with a grateful hum. Panting, victorious, the group collapsed amid the wreckage, Elara arriving to embrace her daughters and Jack, her eyes shining with dramatic gratitude. "You, all of you, have saved us." But as cheers rose, a curious transmission crackled over the comms, not Vorath, but an unknown signal. "Earth vessel, this is Admiral Kane of the United Terran Fleet. We've detected your distress. Stand by for extraction or alliance." The galaxy had more surprises in store, the thrill of first contact evolving into something grander, deadlier. Jack exchanged glances with his lovers, the climax not an end, but a precipice to greater dramas untold. Jack's glance lingered on the comms panel, the Terran Admiral's voice crackling through like a ghost from a half-forgotten dream, stirring a whirlwind of emotions that clashed harder than any Vorath claw. Hope, caution, or just the dramatic irony of the universe finally throwing humanity a bone after he'd already sunk his teeth into something far more entangled. The chamber around them still reeked of ozone and ichor, the core's conduits pulsing with renewed stability. But the air felt charged now with a new kind of tension, one that pulled at the threads of their hard-won unity. Elara stepped forward, her regal poise unbroken despite the singe marks on her gown, her violet eyes narrowing at the hologram flickering to life, a stern-faced human in crisp uniform, metals glinting under what looked like the bridge lights of a capital ship. "Admiral Kane," she intoned, her mental voice projecting calm authority even as her daughters clustered closer to Jack, their hands finding his in a subtle, possessive weave that made his skin tingle with their lingering bioelectric hum. "Matriarch Elara of Xyphera," the Admiral replied, his tone clipped and professional, the kind of voice that had commanded fleets through wormhole skirmishes. "We've been monitoring your signals for weeks. First contact protocols demand we assist, but reports indicate irregularities. A human male in your custody? Explain." The word custody hung like a poorly aimed blaster shot, and Jack felt Zara stiffen beside him, her fingers tightening on his arm until it bordered on painful. Lyra's graceful facade cracked just a fraction, her pointed ears twitching in what he now recognized as irritation, while Nara let out a soft, awkward squeak that echoed in the sudden hush. Vexa, still kneeling in Redemption's shadow, shot Jack a sidelong glance, equal parts curiosity and something sharper, like she was sizing up this new complication to her already tangled loyalties. Elara's lips curved into a smile that was all diplomacy and hidden daggers. "Custody? No, Admiral, alliance. Jack Harlan is our chosen, the catalyst who has fortified our bloodline and our defenses. Without him, your signals would greet only silence and Vorath banners." The Admiral's brow furrowed, his holographic form shifting as if he were leaning in for a better look at the ragtag group. Jack, bloodied and half undressed in his torn scout gear. The princesses, gowns and suits in disarray from battle and more intimate exertions. Their white hair tousled like they'd just rolled out of a particularly vigorous sparring session, which, in a way, they had. And Vexa, rising slowly, her voluptuous figure drawing an unintended stare from the Admiral that made Jack suppress a chuckle, even as drama coiled tighter in his chest. This was it, the precipice tipping into freefall. Earth knowing about his arrangement could mean rescue, or it could mean a court-martial for going native in the most literal sense. The Admiral cleared his throat, a human tick that felt oddly comforting amid the alien opulence. Chosen? Harlan, report. What the hell have you gotten yourself into out there? Jack stepped forward, disentangling gently from the princess's grips, though Zara's nails left little half-moons on his skin as a reminder, and faced the hologram squarely. Sir, it's complicated. Xyphera's on the brink, genetic collapse. I'm helping stabilize things. Their tech's light years ahead. Our alliance could shift the balance against the Vorath for good. He kept it vague, but the Admiral's eyes sharpened, flicking to the women flanking him. Stabilize how, exactly, and who's the entourage? Before Jack could dodge, Zara, ever the bold one, stepped up, her torn bodysuit riding low enough to reveal a tantalizing sliver of midriff, her posture screaming defiance. We are the entourage, human, Lyra, Nara, and I, daughters of the Matriarch. Jack is our consort, our savior. He breathes strength into our line. The words tumbled out with matriarchal pride, but in the cold light of Terran protocol, they landed like a grenade in a mess hall. The Admiral's face went from stern to slack-jawed in a heartbeat, his metals jingling as he straightened abruptly. Breeds, as in, Nara, trying to help, chimed in with wide-eyed enthusiasm, her gown slipping further off her shoulder in her excitement. Yes, his essence is like starfire, vital, unyielding. We've already felt the quickening. Her innocence clashed hilariously with the implication, and Jack felt heat creep up his neck, the awkwardness hitting like a solar flare. Lyra, sensing the misfire, added smoothly, "It's a sacred right, Admiral, union for the Empire's future." But even she couldn't hide the flush on her porcelain cheeks, her pointed ears drooping slightly in second-hand embarrassment. The Admiral sputtered, a rare crack in the armored facade of command. Harlan, you're fraternizing with the locals, in a breeding program. Fleet Regs are clear on this, no entanglements that compromise mission integrity. Drama escalated as Elara interjected, her voice a velvet whip. Compromise? He has saved us from annihilation. Your regs mean nothing here, Admiral Kane. Join us, or watch from afar as we forge a new era. The hologram flickered with interference, perhaps from the damaged arrays as the Admiral rubbed his temples, muttering something about paperwork and psych evals. Jack jumped in, trying to defuse the bomb. Sir, it's not like that. It's mutual, strategic, and, effective. But his words only amplified the awkwardness. Vexa, seizing her redemption moment, leaned in with a sly smile. Very effective, Admiral. The Chosen's vigor is legendary. Her tone dripped with unintended innuendo, drawing a choked laugh from Zara that she quickly stifled into a cough. Humor bubbled up unexpectedly, lightening the heavy air like a misplaced comet tail. The Admiral, recovering, barked a short laugh himself, gruff and disbelieving. Legendary, huh? Harlan, you always were the type to turn a survey into a soap opera. Fine, stand by for shuttle docking. But keep it professional, people know, quickening's on my bridge. The comms cut, leaving the chamber in stunned silence that shattered into relieved chuckles. Nara buried her face in Jack's chest, giggling uncontrollably. Did I say that wrong? Quickenings? Oh, stars, I sounded like a nursery vid. Zara punched his arm lightly, her eyes sparkling with mirth. You and your stiff-backed kin, fraternizing, as if claiming queens is a mere dalliance. Lyra smiled, tracing a finger along his jaw. It was rather entertaining. But now, the real drama begins, your people arriving, with their rules and stares. The heightening tension was palpable as the station's alarms shifted from battle wails to docking protocols, the hull groaning under the strain of Terran engines sinking with Xyphera fields. Jack felt the weight of it all, the dramatic clash of cultures about to collide, his lover's hands in his anchor against the storm. But awkwardness reared its head immediately upon the shuttle's arrival. The airlock cycled open to reveal a squad of Marines in powered exosuits, rifles at low ready, led by a no-nonsense lieutenant named Reyes, a compact woman with a buzz cut and eyes that scan like targeting arrays. Harlan, you look like hell, and, company? Her gaze swept over the princesses, lingering on their disheveled states, then to Vexa, who stood a bit too close to Jack, her robe artfully arranged to highlight her curves. Lieutenant. This is Lyra, Zara, Nara, Royalty, and Vexa, advisor. Jack gestured awkwardly, suddenly hyper-aware of the bloodstains on his pants and the faint, unmistakable scent of their earlier intimacies clinging to the group. Reyes raised an eyebrow, her Marines shifting uncomfortably behind her big guys, all muscle and protocol, now face-to-face with ethereal beauties whose attire left little to the imagination. One Marine, a young private, gawked openly at Zara's exposed thigh until she noticed and smirked, flexing subtly. "Like what you see, Earthkin. Care to spar?" The private flushed crimson, stammering, "No, ma'am, just protocol salute." He snapped to attention so hard his helmet whacked his chest plate, eliciting snickers from his squad and a dramatic eye roll from Reyes. "Eyes front, idiots. These aren't bar girls there. Whatever Harlan's turned this into." Elara swept in then, turning the awkward greeting into high drama with her commanding presence. "Welcome, Terrans, your aid is timely. But know this, Jack Harlan is under our protection. Any attempt to extract him will be met with resistance." Her tone was laced with imperial warning, and Reyes bristled, hand twitching toward her sidearm. Jack stepped between them, palms up. "Whoa, easy, we're all on the same side here. Admiral's orders, alliance talks." But the humor crept in again as Nara, trying to play diplomat, offered Reyes a glowing fruit from a nearby tray. "Peace offering? It's invigorating." The lieutenant eyed it suspiciously, then bit in only to sputter as the nectar hit, a mild aphrodisiac in Xyphera cuisine that made her cheeks pink and her voice a touch breathy. "What the? Harlan, is everything here laced with whatever this is?" The Marines chuckled, one muttering, "Welcome to the harem, LT," earning a glare that could melt hull plating. As they moved to the strategy chamber, a vast room with holographic star maps swirling like living nebulae, the drama intensified. The Terran delegation, now including a xenobiologist named Dr. Ellis, grilled Jack under the guise of debriefing. Ellis, a lanky man with glasses perpetually slipping down his nose, adjusted his scanner toward the princesses. "Fascinating, hybrid viability. Genetic markers?" Zara crossed her arms, pushing up her cleavage unintentionally, or perhaps not, and fixed him with a stare. "Scan all you want, doctor, but touch us without consent, and you'll be breeding your own regrets in a medbay." Ellis fumbled his device, dropping it with a clatter, his face turning beet red. I meant scientifically." "Harlan, explain the dynamics." Jack rubbed his neck, the awkwardness peaking as Lyra leaned against him, her hand possessively on his hip. "Dynamics. He's our heart, our fire. Simple." Nara nodded eagerly. "And very thorough," Reyes snorted, unable to hold back. "Thorough, right, Harlan, you dog, out here saving empires and starting dynasties." Command's gonna love the report. Subject engaged in interstellar polygamy for tactical purposes. The room erupted in awkward laughter, even Elara cracking a regal smile, but the undercurrent of drama simmered. Whispers from Vexa revealed intercepted Vorath chatter, retaliation fleets massing, using the Terran arrival as a distraction. "They're coming for the heirs," she murmured to Jack, her breath warm on his ear, stirring an unwelcome spark of that earlier intrigue. "We must prepare." The afternoon devolved into a hilarious yet tense planning session, awkward situations piling up like unstable asteroids. A Marine accidentally activated a Xyphera empathy field during a sim run, broadcasting everyone's surface thoughts, Reyes projecting grudging respect for Jack mixed with "how does he do it?" Ellis fixating on specimen curves optimal, and one private blurting mentally, "Princess is hotter than a plasma core." Zara overheard via the link, winking at the offender. Flattery noted, "Soldier, join the training later." The private nearly fainted, while Jack diffused with humor. "Easy, team, focus on the Vorath, not the view." But as simulations wrapped, drama crested with an urgent alert, Vorath scouts probing the outer perimeter, drawn by the Terran signature. Elara rallied everyone, voice booming. "To stations, the alliance is tested now." Jack pulled his lovers aside in a side alcove, the awkward intimacy of the moment laced with urgency. "Stay safe, this just got real." Zara kissed him fiercely. "Always, my chosen, but if your admiral tries to steal you." Lyra and Nara joined the embrace, their bodies pressing close in a tangle that drew Rey's raised eyebrow from afar. Harlan, less smooching, more strategy. Humor aside, the stakes soared, human and alien worlds colliding, betrayals lingering, and Jack at the center, his heart divided yet whole. As klaxons wailed, he wondered if the galaxy's jokes were on him, or if this awkward harmony was the true HFY punchline. The klaxon's wail cut through the strategy chamber like a siren's call, pulling everyone from the haze of awkward banter and half-formed plans into sharp, immediate focus. Jack's mind raced as he dashed down the crystalline corridors alongside Reyes and the Marines, the princesses and Vexa close behind, their footsteps a synchronized rhythm of determination. The Vorath scouts weren't just probing, they were testing, fainting with drone swarms that lit up the outer sensors like fireflies in a storm. But beneath the urgency, Jack couldn't ignore the lingering touches from moments ago, Zara's hand brushing his as they ran, a subtle promise in the way her fingers curled. Lyra's graceful stride syncing with his, her presence a warm anchor, Nara's quick glances, wide-eyed and trusting, stirring that protective fire in his chest. Vexa's redemption-fueled proximity added its own layer of tension, her white hair swaying like a banner of intrigue, but it was his three queens who held his thoughts captive, their bodies and spirits intertwined with his in ways that the Terrans could only speculate about. They reached the command deck in a flurry of activity, Elara already at the central holotable, her fingers dancing over controls that summoned tactical overlays, swirling nebulae of data painting the Vorath positions in threatening red. "Shields at 80%, she announced, her voice steady as star steel. "Terran shuttles, integrate your fire patterns. Harlan, your insights?" Jack slid into place beside her, the Marines fanning out to interface with Xyphera stations, Reyes barking orders with a mix of awe and frustration at the alien tech's intuitive glow. "Hit them with staggered pulses," he suggested, pointing to a cluster of scouts. "Draw M in close, then overload their sensors with an EMP burst from the auxiliary arrays. Buy us time to regroup." Elara nodded, a spark of admiration in her violet eyes, and the plan executed flawlessly, Terran precision meshing with Xyphera elegance in a ballet of destruction that scattered the scouts like leaves in a gale. As the immediate threat ebbed, the deck buzzed with post-battle energy, Marines high-fiving Xyphera guards in awkward but genuine camaraderie. Reyes clapped Jack on the back, her earlier skepticism softened. "Not bad, Harlan, your family here's got some moves." But the Admiral's voice cut through the comms again, summoning a smaller group to a secure alcove for private briefings. Jack exchanged a loaded look with the princesses, Lyra's subtle nod, Zara's mischievous wink, Nara's shy smile, and followed, Vexa trailing like a shadow seeking light. The alcove sealed behind them, a private sanctum with walls that shimmered like liquid sapphire, muffling the outer clamor. Elara turned to the hologram, but her gaze lingered on Jack, heavy with unspoken gratitude and something deeper, more personal. "Admiral Kane, the scouts are repelled for now. Your chosen has proven invaluable once more." The Admiral's image flickered, his expression a blend of relief and lingering discomfort. "Good work, but Harlan, we need to discuss extraction protocols. Fleet Command's twitchy about this setup. Reports are filtering back, hybrids, alliances, it's unprecedented." Drama simmered, but Jack waved it off, his focus shifting to the women around him, their proximity igniting a quiet heat that had been building since the battle's adrenaline crash. "Sir, extraction's off the table. This is home now, but alliance, that's wide open." The call wrapped quickly after that, the Admiral grumbling about diplomatic tangles before signing off, leaving the group in a bubble of relative calm. Elara dismissed Vexa with a nod, the advisor slipping out with a lingering glance at Jack that promised future conversations, and then, with a regal wave, excused the Terrans to their quarters. "Rest, warriors, the night claims its due." The door hissed shut, leaving Jack alone with Elara and his princesses, the air thickening with anticipation like the calm before a cosmic storm. Lyra stepped close first, her hand tracing the line of his jaw, her touch cool and electric, sending ripples through his weary muscles. "You've carried us through fire today, my love," she murmured, her voice a silken caress that wrapped around him. Zara pressed in from the other side, her bolder energy a contrast, her fingers splaying across his chest, feeling the steady thump of his heart beneath the torn fabric. "And now, let us carry you." Nara, emboldened by the victory, joined them, her slender form nestling against his back, arms wrapping around his waist in a hug that was both tender and insistent, her breath warm on his neck. Elara watched for a moment, her matriarchal poise giving way to a soft smile, before she inclined her head. "The bonds must deepen. I leave you to it, the sanctum awaits." She glided out, the door sealing once more, but not before her eyes met Jack's in a moment of shared understanding. This was more than duty. It was the lifeblood of their future. The alcove's lights dimmed to an intimate glow, the walls shifting to project a serene starfield, twinkling lights that danced like fireflies, casting ethereal patterns across their skin. Jack felt the tension of the day melt under their touches, the dramatic weight of alliances and battles giving way to something profoundly personal, a celebration of survival and connection. Zara's lips found his first, the kiss starting slow, exploratory, a gentle press that deepened into a hungry exploration, her tongue tracing his with a teasing rhythm that made his pulse quicken, her body molded to his, the curves of her form, soft yet strong from their training, pressing close, her white hair cascading over his shoulder like a veil of moonlight. Jack's hands roamed her back, fingers slipping under the edges of her bodysuit, feeling the smooth warmth of her skin, the subtle hum of her bioenergy responding to his touch like a symphony building to crescendo. She sighed into the kiss, a sound of pure contentment, her pointed ears twitching as his thumb brushed one, eliciting a shiver that ran through her entire frame. Lyra joined seamlessly, her elegance turning the moment into poetry, her mouth trailing kisses along his neck, nipping gently at the pulse point that made him groan softly. "We've missed this," she whispered, her voice husky with longing, her hands working the fastenings of his shirt with deliberate care, exposing his chest to the cool air. Nara, from behind, let her fingers explore lower, tracing the lines of his abdomen with featherlight touches that built a slow fire, her innocence giving way to a confident curiosity. She nuzzled his shoulder, her gown whispering against him as she shifted, the fabric pooling slightly to reveal the graceful arch of her back. Jack turned slightly, capturing Nara's lips in a tender kiss that contrasted Zara's fire, soft, exploratory, her responses blooming like a flower under sunlight, her body arching instinctively toward him. They moved as one toward the alcove's central repose, a wide, cushioned platform that seemed to mold to their forms, infused with Xyphera's adaptive fabrics that warmed and cradled like a lover's embrace. Clothes fell away in a graceful cascade, Jack's shirt discarded, his pants following with Zara's eager help. Lyra's robe slipping from her shoulders to pool at her feet, revealing the lithe beauty of her silhouette, porcelain skin glowing under the star projections. Zara's bodysuit unzipped with a soft hiss, her voluptuous figure emerging like a goddess unveiled, curves inviting and alive with subtle pulses of light. Nara's gown shed last, her slender yet alluring form joining them, her wide eyes filled with a mix of awe and desire as she traced patterns on Jack's thigh. Jack lay back, drawing them close, his hands exploring with reverence, the swell of Lyra's breast fitting perfectly in his palm, her nipple hardening under his thumb in a response that drew a breathy moan from her lips, Zara's hip under his other hand, guiding her to straddle his leg, the heat of her core pressing against him through the thin barrier of remaining fabric, a teasing friction that made her grind slowly. Eyes locked on his with playful challenge. Nara knelt beside him, her fingers wrapping around his length with tentative gentleness, stroking with increasing confidence as she leaned down to kiss his chest, her white hair fanning out like a halo. The sensations layered, Zara's rhythmic movements building a delicious tension, Lyra's body arching as he lavished attention on her with mouth and hands, tasting the sweet essence of her skin, Nara's touch firming, her own arousal evident in the flush creeping over her pointed ears and down her neck. The air hummed with their shared energy, a subtle symphony where touches sparked visible trails of light, their biologies intertwining in ways that amplified every caress, every whisper. Jack shifted, pulling Nara atop him gently, her warmth enveloping him as she sank down with a gasp of fulfillment, her inner walls welcoming him in a velvet embrace that pulsed rhythmically, drawing him deeper. She moved tentatively at first, finding her pace, her breasts swaying with each rise and fall. Jack's hands on her hips guiding but not controlling, letting her discover the pleasure. Lyra positioned herself nearby, her fingers delving between her own thighs as she watched, then offering her breast to Jack's mouth, the dual sensations making her cry out softly, her free hand reaching to tease Nara's sensitive ear, heightening the moment for them both. Zara, not one to be sidelined, straddled Jack's face, lowering with bold invitation, her scent intoxicating, a mix of exotic blooms and desire. He obliged eagerly, his tongue tracing her folds with devoted strokes, savoring her taste, the way she trembled and ground against him, her moans a melody that urged him on. Her hands tangled in his hair, pulling gently as waves built within her body undulating in graceful waves that matched the stars overhead. The four of them connected in a tapestry of sensation, Nara's rhythmic riding escalating to fervent thrusts, her climax approaching in shuddering builds. Lyra now joining Zara in shared touches, their fingers intertwining over Jack's chest, lips meeting in a kiss above him that was as passionate as their union with him. Zara's release crashing first, her thighs quivering around him, flooding him with warmth as she arched back, white hair whipping like a comet's tail. Nara followed soon after, her movements faltering into ecstasy, inner muscles clenching in blissful release that pulled Jack toward his own edge, but he held back, the human endurance shining through, drawing out their pleasures. They shifted fluidly, Lyra taking Nara's place, her elegant form sliding over him with a sigh of completion, her movements fluid and deep, hips circling in patterns that explored every angle, her pointed ears flushing as he reached up to caress them. Zara and Nara flanked, their hands and mouths lavishing attention, Zara's tongue tracing lazy circles on his inner thigh, teasing higher, Nara kissing his neck, her fingers joining Lyra's on his chest, pinching lightly to elicit groans that vibrated through them all. The peaks came in waves, Lyra's graceful undulations building to a shattering crescendo, her body tensing and releasing in a glow that lit the alcove like aurora. Jack finally surrendering as she clenched around him, his release pulsing deep within her. Shared energies merging in a burst of light and warmth that left them all breathless. Connected on a level beyond the physical, they collapsed together in a tangle of limbs and soft laughter, bodies slick and sated, the starfield above twinkling in approval. Whispers of affection filled the air, Zara's playful nips at his shoulder, Lyra's fingers combing his hair, Nara's head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. But even in this intimate afterglow, the galaxy whispered reminders of the world outside. A soft chime from the alcove's panel, Elara's voice, gentle but urgent. The air stir. Rest well, chosen, dawn brings new alliances. Jack pulled them closer, the drama of the day fading into peaceful unity, their forms entwined under the stars, a promise of futures built on passion and strength. Yet, as sleep tugged at him, a faint, curious hum from the vents caught his ear, another shadow in the machine. The night held its secrets, but for now, in their embrace, Jack found the true heart of HFY, not just survival, but thriving in the arms of queens. Jack stirred in the cocoon of warmth that enveloped him, the alcove's adaptive platform cradling their entwined forms like a living dream, the starfield projections above fading into a soft dawn simulation that mimicked Xyphera's eternal twilight. Nara's head rested on his chest, her white hair splayed across his skin like threads of captured moonlight, her breathing a gentle rhythm that synced with the faint pulse of the station's core. Lyra curled against his side, one leg draped possessively over his thigh, her porcelain skin still flushed from their shared intimacies, a subtle glow lingering where their energies had merged. Zara, ever the restless flame, had her arms slung across his waist, her fingers idly tracing lazy circles on his abdomen, as if even in repose she couldn't resist staking her claim. The afterglow wrapped them in a haze of contentment, the echoes of their passions replaying in Jack's mind like a symphony he never wanted to end, the way Lyra's elegant movements had built to that exquisite release. Zara's bold rhythms driving them all to heights unspoken. Nara's tender explorations blooming into confident abandon. It was more than physical. It was a forging, a union that had deepened their bonds beyond words, promising heirs who would carry the fire of both worlds. But that faint hum from the vents nagged at him, a discordant note in the harmony, growing just a touch louder now, like a whisper insistent on being heard. Jack shifted carefully, not wanting to disturb the princesses, and propped himself up on one elbow. The alcove's ambient lights brightened subtly, casting long shadows that danced across the sapphire walls, and he strained his ears. It wasn't the usual station drone, this was rhythmic, almost vocal, a low thrum, interspersed with what sounded like muffled chimes, emanating from a concealed panel near the ceiling. His explorer's instincts, sharpened by years of solo runs through asteroid belts and silent voids, prickled with unease. "What the?" he muttered under his breath, glancing down to ensure the women remained asleep. Zara stirred slightly, her pointed ears twitching, but she settled with a soft sigh, her voluptuous form shifting closer in her slumber, slipping free as gently as he could, earning a sleepy murmur from Nara that tugged at his heart. He padded barefoot across the cool floor, the platform retracting smoothly behind him. The hum intensified as he approached the vent, now clear enough to discern patterns, not mechanical, but biological, like a heartbeat echoing through conduits. Jack reached up, his fingers probing the panel's edge, and with a soft click, it yielded, swinging open on silent hinges. Cool air rushed out, carrying a scent both familiar and alien, ozone mixed with the nectar of their earlier exertions, but undercut by something sharper, metallic, peering inside. His eyes adjusted to the dim glow of fiber optic lines snaking through the walls, and there, nestled in an alcove of wiring, was a small, crystalline device pulsing with inner light. Not Xyphera tech, at least, not the standard issue. It looked improvised, cobbled from Vorath shards and Terran circuitry, a hybrid abomination that shouldn't exist. His hand closed around it, the crystal warm to the touch, vibrating against his palm as if alive. A holographic interface flickered to life at his touch, projecting a tiny, three-dimensional feed, not the Vorath war room he'd half expected, but a serene chamber deep within the station's gestation vaults. There, suspended in nutrient webs that shimmered like spider silk under starlight, were the nascent forms of their heirs, tiny, ethereal figures already showing the blend of human robustness and Xyphera grace, their skin a soft alabaster laced with faint veins of golden light. Jack's breath caught. They were beautiful, even in this embryonic stage, stirring faintly as Elara had foretold. But the feed zoomed in, unbidden, revealing details that twisted his gut. The heirs weren't just developing, they were interfacing, tendrils of energy linking them to a central nexus, and at that nexus, his own face? No, not quite. A genetic echo, a projection of Jack himself, but altered, enhanced, as if the device was simulating outcomes, futures where these children led fleets to conquer not just the Vorath, but entire sectors. "What the hell is this?" Jack whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum. The hologram shifted, pulling up logs, timestamps from before his arrival, schematics detailing how his DNA had been sampled en route, even during the tractor beam capture. His mind reeled. This wasn't surveillance, it was premeditation. The device beeped softly, decoding a final file, a message, Elara's voice, but distorted, layered with urgency. The chosen arrives, vital signs optimal, robust, adaptive. Proceed with phase 2, integration. The old blood awakens. Old blood? Jack's heart hammered, the pieces slotting together with a sickening click. He glanced back at the sleeping princesses, their forms so vulnerable, so trusting, and a wave of betrayal crashed over him. But before he could process it, the alcove's main door hissed open, not Elara, but Vexa, her white hair disheveled, eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination, clad in a simple shift that clung to her curves like morning mist. "Chosen, Jack, you found it," she said, her voice a hurried whisper, stepping inside and sealing the door with a frantic gesture. Her pointed ears were pinned back, and for the first time, Jack saw not the scheming advisor, but a woman haunted by secrets. "I placed it there to warn you, but we don't have much time, the heirs are stirring, and when they do..." She trailed off, her violet eyes flicking to the hologram, which now looped a simulation, the children growing at accelerated rates, their eyes, his eyes, glowing with an otherworldly power, commanding legions that bore the Terran emblem twisted with Xyphera thorns. "Warn me." "About what?" Jack demanded, keeping his voice low, the crystal clutched like a talisman in his fist. The princesses stirred faintly, Lyra murmuring in her sleep, Zara's hand reaching out instinctively, but they didn't wake, the alcove's hush field holding. Vexa's face crumpled, drama etching lines of regret across her elegant features. "The matriarch, Elara, she's not who she seems, the genetic decline? A fabrication, a lure, broadcast subtly across human frequencies for years, waiting for one like you, a deathworlder with the markers. Your DNA isn't just robust, it's the key to unlocking the ancients' legacy. Xyphera wasn't always matriarchal isolationists. We were, seeded by humans, eons ago, explorers who crashed here, interbred, but the pure strain faded. Elara's been engineering this, luring a fresh source to reignite it. The heirs won't just be strong. They'll be weapons, telepathically linked to you, controlling you through the bond we've deepened." Jack's world tilted, the intimate memories from moments ago now tainted every touch, every whisper, part of a grand design. The twist hit like a hull breach, sucking the air from his lungs. He wasn't the savior. He was the vessel, the unwitting patriarch in a cosmic Ponzi scheme. "And you're part of this." His voice cracked, betrayal sharp as a plasma cut. But Vexa shook her head vehemently, stepping closer, her hand reaching out tentatively, brushing his arm with a touch that sparked despite the chill. "No, I was before I saw you fight, before the unions. Elara's vision is conquest, not alliance. She'll use the Terrans too, absorb their fleet once the heirs bind you as the conduit. But the device, it can sever the link, free you, free them." She nodded toward the princesses, her eyes softening with unexpected tenderness. "They don't know, they're her daughters, but pawns like you. The bonds are real, your human fire ignited something genuine in them, in me, but if the heirs awaken fully. The hum escalated, the crystal in Jack's hand flaring with urgent light, the hologram fracturing into static as alarms, silent to the outside, but vibrating through the floor, signaled the gestation vaults activating. Jack's mind raced, the powerful twist reshaping everything, his role, his loves, the empire he'd helped forge. Was every moan, every climax a manipulation, or had humanity's essence, that HFY spark, transcended the scheme, turning pawns into rebels? He pocketed the device, its warmth a burning reminder, and shook Vexa gently. "Show me the vaults, now, we end this before it starts." They moved like shadows through the service passages, Vexa leading with a stolen access fob, her shift whispering against her legs, the awkward intimacy of their proximity, her occasional brush against him, charged with unspoken regret, adding layers to the tension. Jack's thoughts whirled, the Terran fleet orbiting obliviously, Admiral Kane's gruff voice echoing in memory, unaware of the trap closing, and the princesses, the princesses, he had to wake them. Explain, but how? The twist's surprise left him reeling, curiosity battling fury as they descended into the lower levels, the air growing thicker with the hum of gestation chambers. The vaults were a cathedral of crystal and light, rows of nutrient pods glowing like bioluminescent eggs, each cradling a nascent Air 10 now, accelerating beyond natural bounds, their tiny forms writhing with precocious energy. At the center, a nexus orb pulsed, Elara standing before it, her back to them, hands raised in invocation. "Awaken, my darlings," she intoned, her voice echoing with maternal fervor. "Claim your conduit, the stars await your command." Jack burst from the shadows, Vexa at his flank, the crystal raised like a weapon. "Elara, what the hell have you done?" The matriarch whirled, her violet eyes widening not in shock, but in calculated calm, a smile playing on her lips that chilled him to the core. "Chosen, you were meant to discover this. The twist completes the binding, your outrage fuels the link." The orbs flared, and suddenly, visions assaulted Jack, flashes of ancient human ships crashing on Xyphera's progenitor world, intermingling with proto-aliens, birthing the matriarchy. Elara as a young queen, discovering the dormant genes, plotting the lure across the void. But the surprise deepened, the heir's eyes snapped open in the pods, locking onto him, not with innocence, but with a hive-mind pull that yanked at his soul, tendrils of telepathic energy snaking into his mind, amplifying the bonds from their intimacies into chains. Pain lanced through him, knees buckling as the mental assault hit, memories of Lyra's graceful surrender, Zara's fiery claims, Nara's blooming trust, all weaponized, twisting pleasure into compulsion. "Fight it!" Vexa cried, slamming the access fob into a console, initiating the sever protocol from the device. Sparks flew, the nexus glitching, but Elara laughed, a sound both triumphant and sorrowful. "Too late, advisor. The humans' fire is ours now, the heirs will lead, and through them, I rule the galaxy, Terrans, Vorath, all." But in the maelstrom of the twist, Jack's HFY core ignited, a surge of pure, unyielding will, humanity's defiant roar against the stars. He staggered forward, slamming the crystal into the nexus, the hybrid tech overloading in a cascade of light. The link shattered, heirs wailing in their pods as the telepathic grip released, leaving Jack gasping, free but drained. Elara lunged, her regal form feral now, nails extended like claws, but Vexa intercepted, the two women clashing in a whirlwind of silken robes and fury, Vexa's redemption strike landing true, a hidden blade from her shift piercing the matriarch's defenses. Elara crumpled, eyes dimming with shock. "You, betray for him, a primitive," but her words faltered, the truth spilling in her final breath. The lure, it worked too well, his essence, it's changing them, the heirs, they choose him now. She slumped, the vault falling silent save for the heirs' soft coos, their eyes, now fully open, fixated on Jack with not command, but adoration. The twist inverting, he wasn't the puppet. He was the true architect, the human spark overriding the scheme, binding the future to his will. Vexa knelt beside the fallen queen, tears streaking her face, but Jack pulled her up, the weight of revelation settling like a crown. "It's over, but the princesses, they'll wake to this chaos." As if summoned, alarms blared station-wide, the Terran fleet hailing urgently, Vorath reinforcements detected. But now, with Elara's deception unveiled, the real war loomed. Jack gathered the device shards, mind already plotting, the heirs his, the empire fracturing, his lovers soon to learn the galaxy's cruel joke. The powerful twist had appended everything, but in its surprise, It handed him the reins, HFY not as breeder, but as conqueror, lover, father to stars. Yet, as they raced back to rouse Lyra, Zara, and Nara, Jack couldn't shake the lingering pull in his veins, the heir's gaze promising powers untapped, alliances unbreakable. The surprise was just beginning, a twist that would echo through the void. The alarm's relentless blare clawed at the edges of Jack's resolve as he and Vexa sprinted through the labyrinthine service passages, the crystalline walls blurring into streaks of sapphire and silver under the emergency strobes. The air's soft coos echoed in his mind like a haunting lullaby. Their adoring gaze a weight he carried now, not as chains, but as a crown of thorns and promise, the twist's aftershocks rippling through his veins with every pounding step. Vexa's shift fluttered around her legs, her white hair whipping like a flag of defiance, and though her presence beside him was a fragile alliance forged in blood and revelation, Jack couldn't deny the spark of something more: gratitude, perhaps, or the galaxy's wry joke on his already complicated heart. The princesses, they'll be furious. Heartbroken, she panted, her voice laced with the raw edge of a woman who'd just slain her queen. Elara was their world, but the heirs, they'll sense you, that could be our edge. Jack nodded grimly, his bare feet slapping against the cool deck plating, the borrowed tunic from the vaults chafing against his battle-worn skin. Furious is better than manipulated. We tell him straight, no sugarcoating. And the Terrans, Admiral Kane's gonna have a field day with this mess. The thought twisted his gut, his human kin, orbiting obliviously, hailing for status updates while Vorath's shadows loomed like storm clouds on the horizon. Drama built in layers, each revelation peeling back another skin of the empire he'd thought he'd saved, only to find it rotten at the core. They burst into the alcove just as the station-wide alert escalated, Vorath reinforcements confirmed. A fleet massing in the outer nebula, drawn like sharks to the scent of vulnerability. The princesses were already stirring, the hush field disrupted by the chaos, their forms disentangling from the repose platform with sleepy confusion. Lyra sat up first, her robe half-draped over her elegant curves, white hair tousled in a way that would have been endearing if not for the blood on Jack's hands, metaphorical, but no less staining. "Jack, what's happening?" The alarms. Her violet eyes sharpened as she spotted Vexa, the advisor's disheveled state and the faint ichor smear on her shift. Zara bolted upright next, her bodysuit zipped haphazardly, exposing a tantalizing strip of midriff that she yanked closed with a scowl. "Traitor, what have you?" Nara, rubbing her eyes, clutched the sheet to her chest, her slender form curling protectively as she pieced it together. "Vexa, Jack, why do you look like you've seen a ghost fleet?" The awkwardness hit like a misfired tractor beam, sucking the air from the room. Jack raised his hands, palms out, the crystal shards clutched in one fist like guilty evidence. "Whoa, easy, it's a lot. Elara's gone, dead, and everything we thought about the heirs, the decline, it's all been a setup." The words tumbled out in a rush, drama cresting as he explained the device, the ancient seeding, the lure across the stars, Elara's grand design to weaponize him through their bonds. Vexa's voice chimed in, halting and remorseful, detailing the final confrontation, the Matriarch's fall, the Nexus overload, the heir's surprising choice. The princesses' faces cycled through shock, denial, grief, and a dawning fury that made the alcove feel 10 sizes too small. Lyra's poise shattered first, tears welling in her eyes as she clutched her knees to her chest, the sheet slipping just enough to reveal the graceful line of her thigh, a vulnerable sight that twisted Jack's heart. "Mother lied to us, all those rights, the unions, were we just vessels for her conquest?" Her voice broke, and she looked to Jack with a mix of betrayal and desperate need, as if anchoring to him could steady the storm. Zara punched the platform, her fist sinking into the adaptive cushion with a muffled thud, her bold facade cracking into raw anger. "That witch, using us like pawns in her star grab, and the heirs, they are ours, Jack, not her legacy." Nara, the quiet one, surprised them all by standing abruptly, the sheet falling away entirely in her agitation, revealing her lithe, porcelain form in all its unshielded glory before she snatched it back up with a yelp, cheeks flaming. "Oh stars, sorry, I mean the heirs chose you? That's huge, but Vorath incoming, and Terrans knocking, how do we even explain this to your stiff-backed admiral?" Humor flickered in the tension like a faulty light bulb, Zara letting out a bark of laughter despite herself. "Yeah, Harlan, hey, Admiral, turns out I'm not just banging alien royalty. I'm dad to a psychic army now. Pass the popcorn?" The quip landed awkwardly, drawing a watery chuckle from Lyra and a snort from Vexa, who rubbed her temples. "Not helping, Zara, but she's right. The council's fracturing, loyalists will see Elara's death as murder. Demand your head, chosen. Jack groaned, running a hand through his hair, the absurdity hitting him. Here he was, naked from the waist up save for the tunic, surrounded by half-dressed queens and a turncoat advisor, plotting galactic survival while the love of his lives, grappled with matricide's shadow. Great, so we've got mutiny brewing, Voreth at the door, and my fleet buddies thinking I'm on some interstellar joyride. Reyes is gonna court-martial me on sight. The drama heightened as the alcove's comms panel lit up. Admiral Kane's face materializing in hologram form, his stern features etched with impatience. Harlan, status, we've got Voreth's signatures lighting up the scopes, and what the hell is this chatter about a nexus breach? Report, now. The princesses froze, sheets and suits clutched like shields, Vexa shrinking into the shadows. Jack stepped forward, blocking the view as best he could, but Zara, impulsive as ever, sidled up beside him, her arm looping around his waist in a possessive drape that pressed her curves against his side. Tell your admiral the truth. Love, we're in this together. Nara, trying to compose herself, leaned in too, her sheet slipping again for a heart-stopping second, earning a wide-eyed stare from the hologram. Lyra joined the huddle, her hand on Jack's shoulder, the four of them a tableau of awkward intimacy that made Kane's eyes bug out. Sir, it's complicated. Elara's indisposed, permanent-like. Turns out the whole genetic savior gig was a ploy to hijack human tech through the airs, but we've got him secured, they are on our side now. Psychic link and all. Kane's jaw worked silently, his metals clinking as he leaned forward. Indisposed, heirs, Harlan are those, women in the background, and why does it look like you're in a damn spa retreat? Zara, unable to resist, leaned into the holo field. Spa, Admiral, this is a palace, and yes, we're the women Jack's queens, care to join the family? Kane sputtered, face turning a shade redder than a nebula flare. Queens? Harlan, this is insubordination. And indecent exposure on a secure line. Nara giggled nervously, adjusting her sheet. It's cultural. Xyphera robes are optional post-rite. Vexa, from the corner, muttered, Stars, this is how alliances end death by awkward diplomacy. The humor diffused the bomb just enough for Jack to steer the conversation. Sir? Focus, Voreth fleet's here because of the breach. We need your guns, but on our terms. The heirs can tip the scales, telepathic boosts for targeting, you name it. Kane pinched the bridge of his nose, sighing. Fine, Reyes and a strike team inbound. But Harlan, keep your harem out of sight and get dressed. Command's already buzzing about Harlan's folly. The hologram winked out, leaving the group in stunned silence that erupted into relieved laughter. Zara collapsed against Jack, her body shaking with mirth. Harem? Oh, that's rich. Your admiral's got a vocabulary like a rusty probe. Lyra wiped tears, grief mingling with amusement while Nara beamed. He sounded jealous. Maybe he wants a queen too? But the levity was short-lived. A thunderous boom rocked the station, Voreth rams impacting the outer hull, boarding pods deploying like venomous spores. Drama surged anew as red alerts flooded the alcove, holographic maps springing up with invasion vectors. They're targeting the vaults. Vexa cried, her face paling. The heirs, without Elara's codes, they're vulnerable. Jack pulled on his gear boots, sidearm, the crystal shards tucked into a pouch, rallying the princesses with a fierce kiss each. Lyra's deep and reassuring, Zara's fiery and promising, Nara's sweet and bolstering. We hold the line. Vexa, you and I to the vaults. Girls link with the Terrans, coordinate fire. The awkward farewell lingered, Zara stealing a quick grope that made him flush. Lyra straightening his collar with maternal care, Nara hugging Vexa impulsively, earning a surprised blink from the advisor. For luck, she said shyly, racing through breached corridors. Jack and Vexa dodged plasma bursts and debris, the station groaning like a wounded beast. Awkwardness struck mid-sprint. A group of mutinous guards, Elara loyalists, cornered them in a junction, weapons raised. Murderer, the Matriarch's blood cries for yours. Their leader snarled, a burly woman with white braids and a glare that could curdle nebula milk. Vexa stepped forward, voice trembling but steady. She was a tyrant using us all, the heirs live, and they choose the chosen. The guards hesitated, eyes flicking to Jack, who, in a stroke of humorous timing, tripped over a loose panel, sprawling comically at their feet, sidearm skittering away. Yeah, what she said. The absurdity broke the tension. One guard snickered, lowering her weapon. The great Earth Savior, felled by a floor tile, perhaps the stars do favor him. Vexa helped him up, their hands lingering a beat too long, an awkward spark jumping between them amid the chaos. They pressed on, the vaults now a battlefield, Vorath shock troops swarming the chambers, their scaly forms clashing with Xyphera defenders in sprays of ichor and energy. Jack dove into the fray, retrieving his pistol and firing precise shots, headshots that dropped invaders like sacks of ore, while Vexa wielded a scavenged lance with surprising ferocity, her shift tearing further to reveal glimpses of her athletic build. "Behind you!" she yelled, skewering a lunging brute, her body brushing his in the melee. The proximity felt charged. Awkward in its intimacy, sweat-slick skin, shared breaths, but it fueled them, turning defense into counterattack. Drama peaked as a Vorath captain, massive, tentacled, roaring commands breached the Nexus chamber, tendrils reaching for the air pods. "The whelps are mine, their power will fuel the Empire." Jack tackled it, the impact jarring his bones, tentacles wrapping his limbs in crushing grips. Pain flared, but Vex's blade sliced through, freeing him. Together, they wore it down, Jack's guerrilla punches to soft spots, Vex's elegant thrusts until it slumped, defeated. Gasping, Jack activated the Nexus manually, the air's pods sealing with a hum, their telepathic chorus washing over him. Father? Protect. The word hit like a revelation, heightening the stakes. These weren't tools, they were his, demanding his guardianship. Reinforcements arrived then, Rays and Marines bursting in, blasters blazing, the princesses at their heels, lances glowing. "Harlan, you look like you wrestled a black hole," Rays quipped, blasting a straggler, her eyes widening at the pods. Zara grinned through the grime. "He did better than that. Welcome to the family reunion." Lyra and Nara rushed to Jack, enveloping him in hugs that smeared blood and sweat, Vexa standing awkwardly to the side, earning a nod from Rays. "You the turncoat. Nice work, keeps things interesting." Humor laced the exhaustion, but as the last Vorath fell, the comms crackled with Admiral Kane, "Borders contained?" "Harlan, we've got their fleet in our sights, but they're calling for parley, something about a human anomaly." The awkward parley loomed, drama unresolved, mutineers to quell, heirs to safeguard, Terran scrutiny to navigate. Jack pulled his queens and Vexa close, the group a mismatched family amid the wreckage. One crisis at a time, but hey, at least no one's calling it a harem anymore. Zara smirked. "Give it time." As they moved out, the galaxy's humor felt bittersweet, the awkward bonds their greatest strength against the void. The parley chamber thrummed with the weight of fragile hopes, its crystalline arches arching high like the vaulted ceilings of a forgotten temple, now scarred by blaster scorch marks and the faint haze of dissipating smoke from the recent skirmishes. Jack stood at the center of it all, his borrowed Xyphera tunic still bearing the grime of the vaults. Flanked by his unlikely family, Lyra's elegant poise a steadying force at his left, her hand intertwined with his in a grip that spoke of unshakable trust. Zara's fiery energy crackling on his right, her bodysuit patched but her violet eyes blazing with defiant pride. Nara hovering close behind, her slender fingers occasionally brushing his back for reassurance, her newfound courage shining through the remnants of her disheveled gown. Vexa lingered a step apart, her shift mended with hasty stitches, her white hair pulled back in a practical braid that couldn't quite hide the vulnerability etching her features, the weight of her choices, her redemption, hanging like an unspoken vow. Rays and a squad of Marines formed a human wall behind them, their exosuits humming softly, while Admiral Kane's hologram dominated the far end of the elongated table. His stern face projected life-sized, metals glinting under the chamber's ethereal lights. The Vorath delegation had arrived under a flag of uneasy truce, their boarding shuttle docking with a resonant thud that echoed through the station's bones. The chamber doors parted with a hiss, admitting a procession that was equal parts imposing and grotesque. At the forefront, the Vorath envoy, a towering figure named Krazer, his scaly hide armored in iridescent plates that shifted colors like oil on water, tentacles coiling restlessly from his shoulders. Flanking him were lesser captains, their eyes, beady and multifaceted, darting suspiciously at the hybrid assembly. The air thickened with the scent of brine and metal, a stark contrast to Xyphera's floral nectar, and Jack felt the air's telepathic hum in his mind, a gentle chorus of curiosity and caution. Strangers, but not enemies. "Guide us, Father, " Kane broke the silence first, his voice booming through the holofield with the authority of a man who'd stared down supernovas. "Envoy Krazer, you've breached our, Xyphera's, space uninvited, assaulted our stations, and now you request parley? State your terms, or we'll ventilate your hulls from here to the event horizon." Drama lingered in the Admiral's tone, the awkward undercurrent of this being the first true interstellar summit laced with human bluntness. But Krazer merely rumbled a laugh that vibrated the floor like distant thunder. Bold words, Terran, but we come not for blood, though it flows richly in victory, but for understanding. Whispers reach our hives. A human walks among the crystal queens, siring warriors that pulse with forbidden fire. The anomaly you guard. It threatens the balance or offers alliance if the price is right. Jack stepped forward, the group's collective breath holding as he met the envoy's gaze, the heir's presence amplifying his words with an undercurrent of psychic resonance that made even the Vorath pause. No threats, no prices. Elara's schemes are dust, her lies exposed, her empire fracturing. But the heirs, they're the future, not weapons. Human grit mixed with Xyphera grace, and yeah, a dash of whatever makes you scaly types tick if we play this right. Zara squeezed his hand, stifling a smirk at his casual jab, while Lyra's free hand rested on her abdomen, a subtle reminder of the life stirring within her, the first natural conception, untainted by the Nexus's manipulations. Nara whispered to Vexa, "He's good at this, turning enemies into, what? Family?" Vexa nodded, a small smile cracking her facade, the awkward bond between them solidifying in shared glances. Krazer tilted his head, tentacles undulating thoughtfully. The Matriarch falls and her daughters stand with the Earthborn. Intriguing, our scans detect. Changes, your station's core stabilizes, heirs awaken without her command. Show us. The request hung heavy, drama coiling tighter as rays shifted uneasily, her hand hovering near her sidearm. "No way, squid face, you want proof, earn it." But Jack waved her down. The heir's chorus urging him, asterisk show them truth. Bind or break, asterisk. With a nod to Vexa, who had become the unlikely custodian of the vault codes, she activated a secondary hologram, projecting the gestation chambers, the pods aglow, tiny forms reaching out with ethereal hands, their eyes mirrors of Jack's own, laced with violet flecks beaming innocence and power. The Vorath leaned in, multifaceted eyes widening, a low hiss escaping Krazer's maw. By the deep currents, they live and choose. The parley teetered on that revelation, awkward silences broken by Zara's bold interjection. They choose Jackus, not conquest but coexistence. Your fleets ravage sectors, ours could protect them, join or slink back to your hives. Humor edged her words, lightening the gravity, and to everyone's surprise, Krazer chuckled, a wet, gurgling sound that set the Marines on edge. The bold one speaks truth. We Vorath thrive on strength, not subtlety. Elara's web ensnared us too, promises of shared spoils. But this, hybrid vigor, it echoes legends of the old spawn, progenitors who swam the void before hives divided. The envoy extended a tentacle in gesture, not threat, and Jack, channeling the heir's intuitive nudge, clasped it briefly, the contact sending a jolt of shared visions, ancient battles, lost alliances, a galaxy not of endless war but woven fates. Kane's hologram flickered with approval, the Admiral's gruff voice sealing the moment. Terms, ceasefires across the Orion fringe, tech exchanges, no weapons, rays and joint patrols against real threats like those pirate cartels in the belt. Harlan, your lead liaison, don't screw it up. Rays rolled her eyes, muttering, liaison, right, more like babysitter for the space soap opera. The group chuckled, the humor a balm against the lingering drama of Elara's shadow, and as Krazer nodded assent, the parley dissolved into tentative accords, holographic treaties scrolling across the table, signed with digital flourishes and Vorath bioinks that shimmered like living tattoos, with the Vorath shuttles withdrawing under watchful Terran eyes. The station breathed a collective sigh, the alarms silencing into a peaceful hum. Mutineers, those loyalists clinging to Elara's ghost, were quelled not by force, but by truth. Vexa and the princesses addressing the council in a broadcast from the throne nexus, revealing the matriarch's deceptions, the heir's choice, Jack's pivotal role. Tears flowed, accusations flew, but in the end, acceptance bloomed, Xyphera's matriarchy evolving, not shattering, with Lyra as interim regent, Zara commanding the fleets, Nara overseeing the gestation tech, and Vexa, well, her place at Jack's side. Awkward advisor turned confidante, her redemption complete in quiet moments where she'd blush at Nara's teasing hugs. Months blurred into a tapestry of renewal. The station, now a hybrid bastion of Xyphera crystal and Terran steel, thriving under the Alliance's banner. Jack found himself in the eye of it all, not as conqueror, but as the steady heart, mornings spent in the vaults with the heirs, now toddling on chubby legs that glowed with inner light. Their telepathic babble a joyous chaos in his mind, Asterisk Papa. Fly, stars chase. Asterisk, as he taught them human games, roughhousing on the adaptive platforms while Lyra watched with maternal glow, her belly rounding with their second child. Zara dragged him to Simpods for strategy sessions that devolved into laughter-filled tangles, her bold energy undimmed, often pulling Vexa in for good measure, the advisor's initial awkward protests melting into shared blushes and whispers that hinted at expanding the family circle. Nara, blossoming into a tech savant, tinkered alongside Reyes, the two women bonding over jury-rigged hybrids, Terran plasma rifles etched with Xyphera runes that became the Alliance's edge against rogue threats. You know, Reyes confided one evening over glowing fruits that no longer made her flush much. I came here to extract a lost scout. Now I'm godmother to psychic squid kids. Harlan, you owe me hazard pay. Jack laughed, clapping her shoulder, the humor a constant thread weaving through the days. Admiral Kane visited often, his gruff exterior cracking into paternal pride at the heir's antics, even allowing Zara to borrow a Terran shuttle for joyrides that left him muttering about reckless royalty. Yet, it was in the quiet nights that the true ending unfolded, a good one, earned through fire and forgiveness, where the stars outside the viewport seemed brighter, less mocking. Jack would gather them all in the expanded alcove, now a family sanctum with Terran bunks mingled with Xyphera silks, the heirs curled in a pile of glowing blankets. Lyra would nestle against him, her head on his shoulder, fingers tracing the scars from battles past. You saved us, Jack, not just from Alara, but from ourselves. Humanity's fire, it warms the void. Zara, sprawled across his lap, would tease, warms, it scorches, love, but don't let it go to your head or other places. Nara giggled, Vexa rolling her eyes but smiling, her hand finding Jack's in the dim light, the awkward spark now a comfortable flame. One such night, as the heirs dreamed in unison, sending visions of nebulae playgrounds into their minds, Jack pulled them closer, the weight of his crown feeling lighter than ever. The galaxy, once a cold expanse of peril, now pulsed with possibility. Vorath envoys trading brine-scented artifacts for crystal tech, Terran fleets patrolling with Xyphera grace, the heirs growing into bridges between worlds, betrayals mended, awkward alliances forged into unbreakable bonds, and at the center, a human, rugged, unyielding, loved beyond measure. Humanity, fuck yeah, Jack whispered into the starlit hush, the words a mantra that echoed through the heirs' dreams, through the station's hum, through the endless void, and in the embrace of his queens, his family, the stars whispered back, indeed. The Empire rose anew, not under one queen's shadow, but in the light of many hearts. A HFY legacy etched across the cosmos, where love conquered more than any fleet, and the awkward, the dramatic, the passionate all wove into an ending worthy of the stars themselves. In the years that followed, Jack Harlan's legacy bloomed across the stars, his hybrid heirs leading a golden age of unity, Terran ingenuity fused with Xyphera grace, Vorath might tempered by shared visions. Jack, ever the explorer, ventured forth with his queens, their love a beacon against the void, proving humanity's fire could warm even the coldest cosmos. And so, the galaxy whispered, humanity, fuck yeah, forever. As the storyteller, I adore this HFY epic, its twists, passions, and triumphant human spirit make it unforgettable. What about you? Would you trade Earth for alien queens and stellar adventures? Thanks for joining this journey on X-Aurel. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares fuel more stellar tales. Let's conquer the stars together.